your name.
Yeah?
Get the door.
Good idea. It's locked!
Well, why won't you just unlock it?
Oh, that's right. Oh no, he locked the top lock! We're trapped!
Oh no, he's a one step ahead of us. We're trapped.
I don't really want to encourage you, but you know you could just unlock the top lock, right?
No, we can't. You have us completely trapped inside of my own house.
I'm not going to argue against this kind of stupidity. I have returned to seek my revenge.
I already told you no the first time. What do you want from me?
Is it not obvious? I have returned to extract the will of Microsoft upon you, and to get my vengeance from their ridiculously cut-out fight that we had last time. I have waited and plotted for many, many months, and now that the day has finally arrived, you will surrender yourself to me.
Look, you might be a little scary, but I don't care about any of that. I beat you once and I can do it again.
Not so fast, Luigi. Not unless you want your little secret to be released early.
What do you mean?
Did you not think that I would return without formulating a plan? For many, many months I have searched for two things in particular that I could use against you. One of which is insurance in case you ever try to rebel against me again. I don't suppose you remember a letter that was supposedly destroyed back in 2014.
Oh no. How did you...
I spent many months looking for those shredded pieces, and now that the letter is in my possession, I can release it to the public whenever I wish.
Regardless, even if you so much as know what the contents of that letter were about, nobody's going to believe you.
What are you implying with that? As far as I know, this information can be incriminating to your career.
I'm a Nintendo mascot. I'm pretty sure if I explain to them what the contents of that letter said, they'll forgive me. Heck, even my brother would probably forgive me if I explained long enough. They won't take that kind of excuse from you because, well, you're a Kinect.
I see. You're not willing to take me seriously because I am a Microsoft product. Are you really willing to take it this far?
Well, I don't care. It's my word against yours.
I had a feeling that it would come to this. That's why I also brought a hostage.
You monster.
Tell me, Luigi, how should I destroy this?
No, wait. That's a limited edition. You can't do anything to it. Okay, I'll do it. I'll do what you want me to do. What is it?
I want you to honestly review a game.
You want me to what?
I'm quite certain my vocal receptors didn't stutter.
This is the second time an evil presence has broken into my home, threatened me with my life, and all they want me to do to guarantee my safety is to play a video game. Okay, fine. You know what? I'll do it. I'll play the game. Where is it?
Look down at your feet.
What do you... You sent this. You sent me this box.
Is it that obvious? Open it already.
All right, I'll do it. I remember this game. This was such a long time ago.
That's exactly why I brought it back to you. I finally understand that you'll give a good score to anything on a Nintendo console. So if I bring you a game that you have no idea about on a Nintendo console, that you'll review it in the most honest way possible. You'll be stuck in a dilemma between lying or not. My logic is flawless. Shut up.
You have a strange way of wanting to get your revenge. But okay, I'll do it. I'll give this game an honest review. But you better keep your word.
Oh, don't worry. I promise to let both of you go, let the hostage get released, and not release this letter to anything so long as you review that game honestly. But I know you won't be able to do it. Leave your friend here and go review the game. Good luck, Luigi.
Paperboy. Let me get this out of the way before I continue. I don't necessarily hate the series, but I just hated what it's become. To be honest, I don't even quite remember everything about this particular version of Paperboy. I just remember playing this a long time ago and having very mixed memories of it. In fact, it's been over 10 years since I last touched this. Why the Kinect would make me want to play this is probably one of the most confusing things I can think of. I mean, it could have had me play Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. That would have definitely kept me up all night. whatever the case, I don't really understand, but who knows, maybe it's doing me a favor and actually making me play something good. But before I continue, let me tell you a little bit about Paperboy.
Paperboy's backstory is quite a simple one. It was originally designed in 1984 by Atari and then later released as an arcade game in 1985. The game was actually praised back when it was released because of its innovative theme and simple controls, despite what you see on the arcade machine. You simply play a paperboy from a cabinet perspective viewpoint. You have to deliver newspapers to subscribing customers, all the while avoiding obstacles and not damaging their houses.
What was really appealing about Paperboy back in the day is that it followed the concept of a lot of video games at the time. It focused on simplistic gameplay that was actually fun. Think of like Tetris or Galaga.
After surviving the video game crash of 1985, the game was ported to a lot of other consoles, such as the Commodore 64, the Nintendo Game Boy and NES, even those silly LCD electronic handheld devices that you used to see back in the day. However, as time progressed and video games evolved, it was apparent that Paperboy would need a 3D release just to stay relevant. Thus, in the midst of all the Nintendo 64 titles, Paperboy was released in the year 2000 for the Nintendo 64, developed by Midway Games, which at the time had already solidified themselves as a well-known developer, having been primarily known for arcade hits such as the Mortal Kombat series.
I remember this game being fun not 10, more like 15 years ago. Well, whatever. I remembered it being fun. It was very quirky and very dated, obviously, but it can't be that bad. Well, I should probably, get started on this soon, but before I do, as usual, I will be looking at the story, the gameplay, and the soundtrack for this game. And, well, considering the concept, I will probably just ignore the story portion, or at least not focus on it as much as I usually do on previous videos. In fact, I'm going to start with the gameplay first for this game and then move to the story and the soundtrack, because I have a feeling it's going to be primarily based in terms of gameplay. And as usual, even though I really don't need to say this or feel any need to, I mean, it's a 15-year-old game, I'm pretty sure there isn't any, but there will be spoilers in this video, so if you don't want to learn what the life of a paperboy is or have the urge to throw newspapers at people's windows, then you might want to leave now. Okie dokie, let's get this game started. If I'm lucky, I can get this thing done in a reasonable amount of time and still have enough time to try to figure out the way to get that evil Kinect out of my house. Whew. Alright, let's get this plugged in. I already know my screen has changed, I just don't want to acknowledge it right now. Okay, well, it's better than what I normally see. Let's just get started with the game.
Oh yes, that's quite the way to introduce children into your game, by just having a paperboy almost kill a dog that was chasing him. I mean, granted, he could have just shoot it off or whatever. Anyways, the game starts off in... Oh no.
Did it always look like this? Huh, what kind of a mushrooms was I eating back then? Oh no, that was a drug reference. Nintendo's going to have my head!
Forget it. Graphics aren't the everything. I mean, it looks dated, but who knows? Maybe the gameplay makes up for it.
Hello, I'm here to deliver your mail.
No tip for you!
Wait, what? Why is he attacking me? What did I do wrong?
You're in a lot of trouble.
Apparently in this alternate dimension, if you so much as come close to somebody's mailbox, they think you're up to no good and try to beat you up. Yeah, there's totally nothing wrong with attacking a child just doing his job for pocket change.
Okay, at the first I didn't think there was a lot to go on with this game, but there's actually a little bit I have to go over, so let me talk about how the controls work first. Paperboy automatically moves forward, but you can use the A button to give him a slight boost of speed. You'll be doing this more often than not because his regular default speed is way too slow. To throw newspapers, you push the R button to throw papers to the right and the Z button on the back of the controller to throw them to the left. The Z button placement is actually really clever considering that you have to use the analog stick to move yourself, so it's really easy on the hands. When you throw a paper, you can either do a quick throw or a power throw. Tapping the corresponding button in the direction you wish to throw the paper makes a quick throw. There's really no effort put into it, and if you're close enough, it's probably going to get the job done the best. But at the same time, if you want to make sure you hit your target, you use a power throw, which requires you to hold down the button, at which case an arrow will show up telling you where the paper will go. It all sounds really simple. What could possibly go wrong? Well, for starters, the arrow is probably the most inaccurate thing I have ever seen. It's more inaccurate than my aiming in Team Fortress 2. I'm not sure if it's just me personally, but every time I throw a paper at the mailbox aimed directly at it, it somehow sails directly past it. At first I imagined it was just me timing it too late and it would sail by, but as time went on I realized I could be firing things at point blank range and it would still go by. I'd have to pretty much get into the mailbox just to hit it directly. Granted, as time progressed I got better at it and I got slightly better. I wouldn't say I hit all of the mailboxes perfectly, but more like 80% of the time. Yet I looked into this a little bit more and I realized that the accuracy of the arrow is actually dependent on what difficulty you play this game on. But I'll get to that in a second. This all sounds pretty par for the course, a little bit frustrating at times so far, but let me talk about what I'm really disappointed about. This game probably has one of the most simple and yet frustrating controls I have probably had the pleasure of playing. I mentioned how simple it was to throw papers, and that's fine. I mentioned how simple it was to speed up. I also mentioned that you turn with the analog stick. This is my main problem with the game. No matter how little or far you push the analog stick, Paperboy will still go at the same trajectory every time. Now I know I sound like I have nothing but negative things to say about the game so far, but that's not all bad. I'll give credit where credit is due in terms of the gameplay. I mean, it's simple in concept still, just like the original Paperboy. It doesn't try to add on any gimmicks later on down the line or anything like that. In fact, the first few levels are par for the course in terms of what I expected from the game. They are a little bit frustrating at times. I thought Pelican Beach was a very good looking level, but at the same time, it just kept developing more and more frustration as time went on, to the point where I actually ran out of time and failed it, and Paperboy threw a fit. I'm serious, this is the animation that plays whenever you run out of time and you don't have a certain number of papers delivered. He just picks up his bike and throws it on the ground. Overall, I thought it was a very average experience so far, par for the course of what I expected from a Paperboy game. It was okay, decent, mediocre, or whatever you want to call it. I thought it was good enough. And then I got to the 5th level, Tesla Town. And then I realized this was gonna be one of those games. For some reason, Midway decided that the game needed to be a little bit more gimmicky. Now, I'm fine with difference in level designs, I'm not complaining about that, but what they put into those levels is what makes me frustrated. For starters, I could barely see where I was going on this level. I had to rely on the map the whole time. Every time I saw a bright house or a mailbox, I knew I hit the right spot, but at the same time I could not see what was in front of me. Not to mention the obstacles in this level are crazy. Who has gnomes attack a Paperboy? Why are there goblins breathing fire? Was it 2 people punching each other, or whatever this guy did? I still have no idea what this guy hit me with. The point is, I thought the gimmick was going a little bit too far. I liked the first 4 levels because they had their own theme, but they didn't try to go overboard with them like this level did. The problem is, this is only the start. When you deliver enough papers after Tesla Town, you unlock something special. A boss fight. Because nothing says Paperboy more than fighting Frankenstein and an evil scientist. I want to say I'm mixed on a decision like this, but in all honesty, I'm just more annoyed at the game for throwing in this kind of thing. I mean, I understand why they did it. They wanted to get rid of that monotony of throwing newspapers at everything, so they decided, why not throw newspapers at the boss? But that really really just plays into what I don't like about the game. These boss fights feel like a gimmick that they threw on simply because every other video game was doing it. Besides that, I probably would have enjoyed these boss fights if they actually had some sort of challenge to them. This boss fight is ridiculously easy. And how do you beat them? By throwing newspapers, of course. You will throw these at these electric towers as the glass pops up and then he dies. That's it. You can get it done in probably less than a minute or two. A very underwhelming boss considering that the build-up to it was actually decent. Now, I know that sounds hypocritical of me because most other video games have boss fights that you can beat in less than a minute or two as well. But what I think those games have is actual substance. Most of them know that the boss has to be treated with respect and actually have its own either personality, boss setting, or even their own moves, and it has to work. Frankenstein just chases you around the area. The scientists will sometimes try to fix the electrical towers. That's all they do. If anything, the only thing this boss does right is its setting, so overall it's just disappointing. And here comes the big kicker of the game. If you're playing on easy difficulty, this is where the game ends. I mentioned the difficulty earlier, so let me get this out of the way before I go back to talking about the rest of the boss fights, because there are more. When you play on easy difficulty, you can only go up to the fight at Dr. Tesla's castle. If you want to play the rest of the game, you have to play it on the medium or hard difficulties. Now, like the bosses, I understand why they do this. They do this to make people want to see all of the game and eventually get better at it so they could play it normally, being on hard mode. But locking the game behind the difficulties just feels pointless. There's just frustration behind all of those difficulties. Heck, you might think there might be some enjoyable things on medium or hard, but no. The game is still as frustrating as it is even if you play it on easy. You just get a lot more gimmicky levels with really irritating obstacles. This is apparently the game's trump card, and in all honesty, I don't think it works well at all. That about covers the gameplay portion, so let me move on to what the story for Paperboy 64 is about.
Now I know what you're thinking. There has to be some sort of deep meaning to the story of Paperboy. Besides throwing out newspapers to everybody in the country, maybe he's secretly trying to find out something. Maybe he's trying to find weapons of mass destruction, or to fight off this evil organization, or try to stop a giant turtle from kidnapping a princess that my brother always wants to take all the credit for. Okay, that last part I made up, but I'm sure there's got to be something in this, right? No, there isn't a story. Paperboy just delivers the newspapers and gets abducted by aliens in the end. He saves the world from aliens. I'm not even kidding, look.
Wow! Huh?
We went from this to this.
Oh, and he apparently saves a woman from King Kong inside a zoo for some reason who killed himself in my playthrough, I don't know. But in all honesty, that's it. There's really no story to it, so I guess we move on to the soundtrack.
Now, I'll give credit where credit is due, despite me ridiculing this game throughout most of this review, because, but let's face it, the game deserves it. The music has no right to be this catchy. In fact, I think that's one of the few redeemable factors about this game. The soundtrack is surprisingly decent in a lot of ways. On a downside to that, though, I do wish that there were a more variety of songs, because some songs play on 2 or 3 levels and you'll recognize them immediately. I mean, they fit the levels themselves, but I wish there was more than just the very upbeat and catchy tunes.
In all honesty, I think the upbeat tracks that play in the game actually support what the game's all about. It's not meant to be a very dark or serious game. It's meant to be something that even a child can enjoy. There are a few songs that are more suited for Halloween, so it fits the levels that show up with that kind of theme really well. Now, it's not the greatest soundtrack ever, but for a game like this, it fits the bill pretty well. It's actually managed to do quite well for itself.
Well, that was Paperboy for the Nintendo 64. I think I figured out why the Kinect wanted me to play this game again. It probably wanted me to be stuck on this game for hours and hours while it tried to contact Microsoft or something, whatever Kinects do nowadays. But it tried to get me stuck on this game like I'd get stuck on a game like Echo the Dolphin. Only difference being is that I'd rather be playing Echo the Dolphin than going through this game again. I mean, the one thing that's frustrating me most about this game is that whereas I can see the potential of it being something decent, not Super Mario 64 or Ocarina of Time standards for the Nintendo 64, but something really decent, I'm very disappointed in that. I have the feeling that if they just stuck to the roots, who knows, it might have been a simple game, but it might have been better than what I just went through. Whatever the case though, that Kinect definitely doesn't have a good taste in games. It's probably expecting me to be here for another 4 or 5 hours. Well, before I get to reviewing Paperboy for the Nintendo 64, I have something I want to ask. I think I know a few people at Midway. I should probably give them a call. Hello?
Hello?
Hello, is this Midway?
Why, yes, I did used to work at Midway.
Hello, Midway. It's me, Luigi, one of the mascots for Nintendo. I just wanted to let you know I just played through Paperboy for the Nintendo 64. I just wanted to ask a question. What happened when you guys were making this game? I mean, it's an old game for sure, but I thought that somewhere down the line you'd look at your roots and...
Oh god, he knows!
Okay, let's get started on the review, shall we? I don't need more controversy on this channel. Well, I honestly don't know what to say about this. If I have to be entirely truthful, I'm pretty sure either the Kinect knows this is a bad game and only did this to waste my time, or it didn't know it was a bad game and only knew it was hard, so it would keep me here in my own home. I still don't understand why it would want to try to lock me in my own home, but I suppose that's a bridge I'll just have to cross when I get to it. Anyways, for Paperboy for the Nintendo 64, it's a very disappointing title. I still don't understand how you take the simplest of concepts and just overdo it to the point of where the game is ridiculing itself, and not in a good way either. That would be like trying to make Tetris a first-person shooter. You know what, I really should add King of Terrible Analogies to my resume. I'm pretty sure that would get me a few more games. Anyways, after playing through the game, I can definitely see the good and the bad for it, and believe me, this game's got a lot of negatives, so just to be on the safe side and give it a little bit of slack, I'll tell you what I thought that was good about the game. The first good thing I could say about the game is that the music is unbelievably catchy. Now, it's not too spectacular. You're not going to hear tracks that are as memorable as Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask or even Banjo-Kazooie, but what's in the game is enough to keep you going. They fit the levels themselves really well and makes it seem as if you're nothing but the Paperboy on a summer job, and in a way it's hard for a game to pull off something like that, especially with how this game looks. Secondly, the early levels of this game, preferably the first 4, are probably the most solid and, dare I say it, most fun levels in the entire game. They replicate that feel that the early Paperboy games were like. You're just a kid delivering newspapers. There wasn't some over-the-top gimmick on most of them. You're just in a different location delivering newspapers to different people. They all have their own feel to them and they don't try to do anything too bizarre or crazy. In all honesty, I think that's pretty good. It doesn't distract anything that goes on in the game and makes you focus on what you're doing. Not to mention, I still think they're rather well designed. They're straightforward and fun. Thirdly, and finally, because these were the only 3 things that I could find even remotely good about the game, is that the tutorial is really well set up and It's just a fun little side thing to do. You learn about the controls and the different ways to throw newspapers and that kind of thing, but the most fun part about the tutorial levels are the ramps at the end of the stage. You could literally spend all your time in this game just going off those ramps and trying to do flips and spins. When I look back on it now, I think I had more fun on those ramps than I did the entire game. So, where do I begin with all of the bad things with Paperboy? I'll start off by saying that the controls are way too loose, and that the aiming reticle for which you throw newspapers is entirely inaccurate, especially on higher levels. I found myself having to throw them 2 or 3 feet ahead of time, and even then it didn't make sense, because if I threw it at that angle, they would be very short of the mailbox, but they ended up hitting anyway. Maybe if the controls were a little bit tighter and not as loose, maybe I wouldn't have so much of a problem with the aiming reticle. Secondly, this game has really laughably easy boss fights. In fact, the only boss that requires any form of idea of what you're doing is the first one. The second and third ones are mind-numbingly easy. Especially the second one. I beat him and I don't even know how I did it. Thirdly, the game's levels get so frustratingly difficult as the game progresses. Whereas I like the first 4 levels of this game, from the 5th level and onward, the game just comes off as gimmicky and trying a little bit too hard to be really interesting. Next, I want to talk a little bit about the obstacles you have to dodge in this game. They are very unfair and very cheap at a lot of moments, and quite frankly, combining that with the frustrating level design as I stated earlier, it doesn't make things more fun. Now, the obstacles I don't mind as so much are the ones you see coming, or you see ahead of time, so if I hit something like that, or if I'm not watching behind me as I'm crossing the street, I don't get mad at that. I don't think those are unfair. That's just me being unaware of the situation. But when I'm going down the sidewalk and I get hit by literally air or by a pirate who hits me from 3 feet away, it really doesn't help that Paperboy takes a good 2 to 4 seconds to get himself upright, and it definitely just wastes time. It's almost as if you need to have a perfect run through a level to complete the level in time. And finally, and this is the one that confuses me the most, and I don't see a purpose for it other than it just to frustrate the player. If you figured it out by now, I'm talking about the fact that the game locks most of its levels by the difficulties. Why? Now, I'm sure somebody out there probably has an understanding as to why this is. I personally don't understand, but if it's something obvious, then I'd like to hear what you guys think. But to me, locking your game behind the hardest difficulty just seems more frustrating to me. I get the idea that they want you to learn the game and take it on at your most experienced, but maybe some people want to see the entire game without having to get stopped by this difficulty spike. To me, I just think that locking that behind a hard difficulty is just unnecessary. Let people play through the game on easy or medium. Heck, maybe they could have locked it off toward medium difficulty if they were that worried that people were going to beat it on easy. There's no reason to put it to the hardest difficulty, just put it to normal. I think I'd understand it then. A few games have done that before. I vaguely remember Star Wars Shadow of the Empire doing something like that. It's a very vague title, I know, but it's the first thing that came to my mind. So in conclusion, despite the few positives that the game might have had, I can't help but think that for the most part it's just a frustrating mess. Instead of taking the original Paperboy and taking the first few steps into making a decent 3D version of the game, instead they just jump off their bike, pick it up and throw it on the ground and have a temper tantrum like they do in the game. It just feels so disappointing because, despite what I thought, I can't help but think that maybe if it wasn't like what it is now, I probably could have been more forgiving of it. I could have even ignored the dated graphics, who knows, but whatever the case, it's just a huge mess, and I don't think in its current state it's worth playing for any reason other than for nostalgic purposes. You know, the more I think about it, I think the Kinect made me play this game just to get back at me. It's a very weird way of getting your revenge, but whatever the case. That's why I'm going to give Paperboy for the Nintendo 64 a 3 out of 10. It could have been a 2 or a 1, but not even I'm that cruel unless it really deserves it. Again, the potential that the game had and the music kind of salvaged it to be a really below average game rather than a terrible one. So it's got maybe that one redeeming factor, if you want to ignore the tutorial levels and the like. But for the upteenth time, the game is such a mess. I'm surprised they released it in the state that it's in, and it just baffles me that the company like Midway, who's made decent games in the past, took a simple concept, a simple game franchise from Atari, and butchered it beyond all belief. I like to think that they didn't intentionally mean to make it like this, or perhaps were rushed with it, but I don't know. There hasn't been a lot of word on it, or none that I can see, so who knows, maybe this is what they were going for. Maybe they just wanted to make a quick buck. Anyways, that's all I really have to talk about for this game, and it was good to go back to it, but at the same time I can see why I forgot about it for over 15 years. So once again, I'm a Luigi, and this has been a Luigi Review. I'll bet the very first one because there's an evil Kinect in my house that's forbidding me from going outside my own home. Why didn't I just call the police? In fact, why didn't I just call Microsoft and let them know they have a rogue Kinect in my house? They're very nice people at times, right? Oh wait, I can't because Miyamoto blocked my connections to them. That's right. Okay, whatever. So now, I have to go back out there and save me from myself. But by that I mean the plush that resembles me. I can't ignore it. It's got a cute little nose. Alright, I'm back.
What? But this is impossible. You weren't supposed to be able to complete it and honestly review it because it was on a Nintendo 64.
Hey, you're the one that told me to review the game as honestly as possible, and I did exactly that. Now keep your word and get out of here.
This can't be happening. I spent months planning my revenge. My scanners told me that there would be a 65% chance that this would have worked.
Well, it's not my fault that your idea of a revenge strategy is for a Nintendo mascot to play a video game.
No, I will not let this happen. Initiating internet protocols. I'm going to send the contents of that letter to every site on the internet, and then I'm going to execute this hostage. You're ruined, Luigi.
Oh, that's not good.
Oh no! Wait a minute, how is it even able to connect to the internet? It's not even plugged in.
Luigi, it's an evil Kinect that's talking to you telepathically. Are you really going to question the logic when it's about to relay that entire letter?
That is a very good point. What are we supposed to do?
I'm thinking, okay?
Oh crap. What is it? What did you find?
Not exactly a lot of time to explain. Catch!
How did this get here? What am I supposed to do with this?
If my theory is correct, this thing is connected to your internet. If you take it offline, it won't be able to relay the letter.
That is by far probably one of the stupidest plans I've ever heard. But I don't exactly have much of a choice here. Well, I'm glad to see myself safe.
That was too close.
You know, you can stop exaggerating. All you did was throw me the game. I'm the one who had to do the dive and, do all of the hard work.
That's true. I don't know why I'm sweating so much. Whatever. It's done. I'm exhausted.
Well, that takes care of that. It's really kind of anticlimactic, actually. Oh well. Say, you want to play some video games?
Thanks. It's a kind offer, but I think I've overstayed my welcome. I'm just gonna get going.
So long, what's your name?
So long.
Oh, Mamma Mia, I forgot to ask for his name again. At this rate, I'm never going to figure it out. Oh well. I feel like playing Super Smash Brothers. What do you think? I figured you'd say that. Anyways, before I forget, I've been on YouTube for around 2 years now. It's a nice feeling, but personally I don't think it's that good considering that I don't put out a lot of videos like I think I should. But I still want to take the time to thank everybody for sticking around by giving me criticisms, game suggestions, saying how good my mustache looks. That last one was a lie. I actually haven't gotten any comments about my mustache, but that's good. I prefer the privacy. But I want to try and give back. Starting with trying to upload more on a regular basis, or at least speed up a little bit more. And I know I sound like a broken record when I say that, but I'm going to try harder this year than I have before. To start that off, the next few voting sessions are going to be games that people have suggested to me. To me, it feels only fair to give back to those who have stuck with me since the beginning. The voting sessions will have games from any genre, any developer or publisher, and I might regret this later, but I'll even throw in some rated M games that you suggest onto these lists. I might not feel entirely comfortable with them considering that I want to keep this a family-friendly channel, but as long as it's not too obscure or too over-the-top violent or whatever, I'll put it in mind. Though, granted, some people want me to do over-the-top violent rated M games, so I'll still have them on there. In fact, one of the next 3 games is an over-the-top violent rated M game. I just don't know if people want to see it or not. We'll find out. This will go on for a while just so people can have the opportunity to perhaps see their game get reviewed by me. So for the next 3 games, which could be of any genre, should I review Mad World, which is the over-the-top rated M game I was talking about, Star Wars The Old Republic, that one was probably the weirdest one, but I like the idea anyway, or GoldenEye 007, a classic from what I've heard. It's a very diverse list. They rated M fighting game, an MMO, and a shooter from the Nintendo 64 era. It's quite interesting seeing it like this, but I'll probably have fun with whatever people decide. So be sure to let me know which one you would like to see, and I'll get started on it. So for the second time in this review, I'm a Luigi, and well, I hope to see you next time. I can't say it's a Luigi review considering I just reviewed Paperboy. Take care everybody, and I'll see you later. Come on, we better go play Super Smash Bros. Before we get bored of it.